say that when you look at our policy in that, U.S. policy in that area, what is United States policy in Somalia now, from your perspective?
Well, it's difficult to say. One is that the Cold War is no more. That's number one. So there's no competing factions, internationally, they say war on Somalia. Secondly, Somalia is a poor country, to begin with. So we don't have really much strategic or otherwise interest in that country. And now that is, that the Cold War is over with, you see. So when we went in December, to help the UN, it was actually based on humanitarian concerns. That was the purpose, in order to alleviate the famine and suffering of the Somali people. Of course, there are times famines have always, occurred in Somalia because of the vegetation and geography. But this particular famine was really what you call a human-made.
Man-made famine.
Yes, I would say human-made. Let's be politically correct. Because when you work in the development field, you have human-made disasters and natural disasters. This is actually what you call a human-made disaster. So really, that's why we went into that country. But I will come back to that, later on the policies when I articulate the question of Haiti. Haiti is under case. Haiti is what you call quote, the oldest Negro republic in the world. And in fact, the only republic really that was founded by slaves. That's the importance of Haiti, insofar as African-American history is concerned, because most of the time we've always heard that slaves were very docile, they were happy to be slaves and they didn't want, to go anywhere else. But the fact that slaves actually, revolted in Haiti and successful proved that slaves actually wanted freedom. There have been slave revolts in this country and other places, which were crushed. But that was the first instance where actually slaves took over, their own country where they were taken to. That's the significance, and this happened in 1804. You remember Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and Toussaint, Louverture, and Jean-Christophe, and all the rest, etc., etc. They were all, what you call freedom fighters, for the Haitian people. Since then, Haiti has gone from, backwards, up and down until, the Marines, got into Haiti in 1915 or so and stayed till 1935 and left. They have had successive governments, assassinations, coups d'etats, palace revolutions, fratricidal squabbles, etc., etc., until Francois Duvalier came to power in 1957. Remember, Duvalier was what you call, quote, a country doctor who rose to power on the platform or manifesto of anti-mulatto, hegemony. Remember that country has always been ruled by the mulatto elite. When Duvalier came to power...
These mulattoes are mixed...
Precisely. Precisely what you might call light-skinned in our country here. Yeah, he rose to power based on an anti-mulatto, manifesto, saying, well, that, the last mulatto president will be the last to rule this country, and the masses of the Haitian people rallied behind him, say, well, this is the man we want. So he became president in 1957 through, an election. The first thing he did when he became president was to crush everybody else, instituted this Tonton Macut, which is a kind of secret police, a paramilitary organization to keep an eye not only on the population, but to form a counter to the army. That's why he could stay in power with his son that long without being overthrown. The Macuts became his own private army. In case the army attempted to overthrow him, this would be the group to fight the army. Because in Haiti, the police and army are the same. Now we are talking about separating them now. That is accord. I'll come back to that. So he succeeded in staying in power until he died in 1971. And his son, Jean-Claude Duvalier, who was about 19 years old at that particular time, took over from him, supported by members of the Haitian elite, his wife, daughters, and all this, it's a kind of family rule. When Jean-Claude came to power, he kind of liberalized, his father's harsh rule, tried to make some changes. But of course, the changes he tried to make were, superficial or cosmetic, not very deep. being an ill-educated person himself, who wasn't much interested in governance anyway. So Haiti remained, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Corruption was rampant. There were no far-reaching economic changes. Most of the money that came from the World Bank was siphoned by corrupt bureaucrats and the military, etc., etc. And of course, the rest is history. In 1986, people got fed up. There was a popular uprising that, Duvalier was overthrown. Then, of course, without active U.S. support for the insurrectionists, he would have still been in power. He was talked into going to power by United States ambassador in Haiti through pressure from Washington. That's why he left. Now, when he left, he was succeeded by Lieutenant General Henri Namfi, who was an army commander. Namfi himself had a reputation of brutality and being a drunkard. His regime didn't last long. There was an election which most Haitian politicians, boycotted. However, a few who took part in the election, LMadu2, became president of Haiti. He was elected as president. LMadu2 has a reputation as a brilliant, a professor and a very intelligent man, but politically naive. Before he consolidated his power, he tried to take on the army. And anybody with some political savvy in the third world knows that you don't mess with the army until you are strongly in place. So he wanted to dismiss Henri Namfi and the rest. What happened was the army overthrew him. Namfi came back to power. When Namfi came back to power, he was even more ruthless and brutal than he was initially. What culminated in his overthrow was what you call the massacre of St. John Bosco. St. John Bosco happened to be the church where President Aristide was a priest. That was an outrage. Both the international community and the Haitians, we are shocked that the army will do that in a church. So because of that outrage, Namfi was overthrown by, at that time they say it was a group of non-commissioned officers. But actually the brain behind that coup was Lieutenant General Prosper Avril. Avril had been a very close confidant of the Duvaliers. Actually, Avril was the person who kept their accounts, their financial accounts of the Duvaliers. So Avril took over as president. Avril's regime was no better than Namfi's or others, even though he was very shrewd. The basic human rights violations that were in Haiti continued under Avril. Well, Avril was forced out, by international outcry and through U.S. pressure. He went into exile in Miami and was succeeded by a provisional president, Pascal Etat Trujillo, who was a Supreme Court judge. Trujillo was actually the person who sat in place and oversaw the elections that culminated in Aristide's election. Actually, Aristide had opposed elections because he said all elections in Haiti had always been fraudulent. There's no need people going to waste their time, voting, knowing fully well that the election would not be honored. Well, in October that year, in 1990, the people forced Aristide to go in and run, for president of Haiti, which he did. Surprisingly, he won. Nobody thought he would win with 2 months left, for the elections in December. So Aristide was sworn in, as president in February 1991. What is ironic about the present situation is that actually the man who oversaw the elections, that made the elections free and fair, was Lieutenant General Raoul Cedras, who was a colonel in the army at that time. First, Cedras was the person who oversaw the elections. That was why Aristide promoted him over all other officers to Lieutenant General and acting army commander, actually when he was still acting army commander.
And he is the commander who is in charge today, is he?
Precisely. That's what's ironic about it. He oversaw the free and fair election, that, he could have messed up the election. He oversaw it that it was free and fair. And to repay him for that, Aristide promoted him over every other officer to Lieutenant General, acting commander of the army. In fact, when I was driving down to Knoxville last year, with the Haitian ambassador. And we were discussing. He said, well, he said, you know, I worked with CIDRAS. The ambassador, Jean Casimir, he was the chairman of the Electoral Commission. He said, you know, I worked with CIDRAS, and every time when we sit down, he would be telling me, look, this is a no-win situation for me. If Aristide wins, you know, the aristocracy and the powerful business will be mad at me. They will say, you let this man win. If he loses, the international community will accuse me of manipulating the election so he wins. He said, well, I'm in no-win situation. I just don't know what to do, you know. So that tells you his thinking, the way he felt. But actually, he did, you know, he did exactly what everybody expected him to do, was do the right thing, you know, let the best person win. That's how, you know, we came to this situation. Now, when Aristide became president, the first thing he did was tell the business community that they have to pay their fair share of taxes. Because in Haiti, you don't know, people do not pay taxes. I can tell that probably almost everybody doesn't pay taxes. Even those who make $1 million a year don't even pay. Exactly, you know. So that's the first thing he did. He said, you have to start paying your own fair share of taxes. Now, that's the way we develop this country. You can't make money and put it back. Secondly, you have to start paying workers their fair share in wages, both locally owned companies and foreign-owned companies.
Some of those foreign-owned companies are paying
American,
the same